Well, I guess I spoke too soon. Finland and Sweden are poised to join NATO, so that's a very interesting development. That makes me wonder what the F is NATO planning, and do they really expect Russia to just watch whilst things look like they're getting closer and closer to the Russian people being pillaged? It's wild. It's wild. This will significantly increase the borders that are touching both NATO and Russia, and that's not a safe place to see yourself as a military power. Never mind a superpower or former superpower. Um, yeah, man. Enjoy these clips explaining the situation a bit better than me. And remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And let me know what you think.
Looks like Finland and Sweden may join NATO as soon as this summer. This is really an extraordinary turn for both of these countries, Finland in particular. And this is the way Washington officials are spinning this. They say Russia has made a massive strategic blunder as Finland and Sweden look poised to join NATO as early as the summer. Washington is banking on the move that will stretch Russia's military and enlarge the Western alliance from 30 to 32 members as a direct consequence of President Putin's invasion of Ukraine. You know, one thing that is pretty remarkable here, to their point about, you know, if Russia's concern was NATO enlargement, this has really tremendously backfired because support for joining NATO in Finland in particular has skyrocketed.
Jumped up
over the past
50%.
month. There was not even close to majority support with that population previously, and now it's up about 62% in March. This obviously is significant because it would increase the land border between NATO territory and Russia. It would more than double from around currently 754 miles to nearly 1,600 miles. It would also, this is from FP, it would also extend NATO's northern flank across the full length of the border, very strategic area where Russia's Navy is, a sizable chunk of it is based. And by the way, there doesn't seem to be any objections from NATO members at this point to the idea of further enlarging the alliance. NATO members seem universally ready to welcome Sweden and Finland with open arms. They're saying effectively that, you know, they'd be kind of a package deal, even though obviously those countries would kind of determine their own fate individually. But the idea is that they both bring a lot to bear, and obviously they're sort of, you know, aligned, and so it makes sense to bring them in together. But obviously, this comes with, you know, extraordinary risks. We've already seen the way that NATO expansion has exacerbated tensions with Russia. And while Putin is responsible for his own actions and his invasion into Ukraine was nowhere near justified, it was a predictable response to previous expansions of NATO. Russia is already being very clear that they find this to be an untenable situation. Let's put this BBC tear sheet up on the screen. Ukraine war, Russia warns Sweden and Finland against NATO membership. And we also put this map on the side that shows you the countries that have joined NATO just since 1997, 14 of them. You can see there Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and on and on. And so this would add another two to that mix. Here's specifically what Russia is saying. They've said everything is about mutual deterring, and should one side, and we consider NATO to be one side, be more powerful than the other, especially in terms of nuclear arms, then it will be considered a threat for the whole architecture of security, and it will cause us to take additional measures. That is from Dmitry Peskov, Putin's spokesman, said that to Sky News on Friday. So it looks like this is almost a fate accomplished. It looks like there is very little resistance. It looks like the populations of these countries have become firmly in favor of joining NATO. I understand from their perspective why they would want to do it. I do not understand from our perspective why we want to continue to escalate and ratchet up tensions with Russia.
Yeah, and I think that, look, it's difficult to do this without sounding callous. However, we should consider the context through which this entire conflict erupted, and NATO expansion was a key part of the impetus that drove Putin's paranoid mindset and led him to the unjustified invasion. Not blaming the United States, but we're also not saying that the U.S. did not have any role whatsoever in setting the table through which this specific conflict erupted from. Which then begs the question, given what we know now about Russian behavior and about NATO expansion, is expanding NATO really still a good idea? Look, Finland and Sweden, if you're them, I get it.
Yeah.
Both have actually been invaded by Russia in the past.
Right.
Both have a long history of tension and defending their sovereignty and exchanging borders and all of that. However, they do not get to decide. The Swedish people do not get to decide whether the United States is going to launch a nuclear weapon on their behalf. The Finnish people do not get to decide that. The American people should get to decide that. And we are missing the exact debate that we lacked in 2008. Let's put this up there on the screen. And this is important because this debate mirrors what it is today. Fiona Hill, who is herself a Russiagator, actually says that she warned George W. Bush in the Oval Office in 2008 that offering Ukraine NATO membership would be seen as a provocation by Putin. Then Vice President Dick Cheney responded by asking her if she hated freedom. As Mehdi Hassan says, sounds like familiar rhetoric to some of us today. Do I wish invasion upon the Swedish people or the Finnish people? No, I've been to Finland. Finland is an awesome place. Terrible food, just have to say it. But you put that out there, and what we see is that doesn't mean that as Americans, we should be risking nuclear war on the Finnish people's behalf. That is it can sound callous. You can stand with somebody and also not want to sacrifice perhaps 100 million of your own citizens on behalf of them.
Well,
this is the cold language of real politics,
yes,
which is necessary in terms of strategic balancing.
Ukraine war, Russia warns Sweden and Finland against NATO membership. No NATO. Well, that's what they say. I mean, I don't know if they're going to take the warning, but they're saying, hey, look what we're doing over here. We got bombs and guns and drones. And you don't want none of that, do you? It's a big mess. It's a big mess. Takes forever to recover if, there's residual, lasting effects of this stuff. Life, man.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the economy. I'm talking about human life. Is that what you're talking about?
I think so.
Good.
That's what I'm thinking.
So you got to take this stuff seriously, but look at what happened. What's that expression, Mo? What's the matter?
Oh, sorry. It's nothing to do with the story. My internet just went down for a bit.
It's because of the Cat 7
Yeah. Well, we've been goofing, so.
escapade from earlier. People in Finland specifically start chatting about expediting this NATO process. Polls start to show the public wants to do it because of the Ukraine stuff, I guess, speeding things up. Sweden jumps in. They go, we're right next door to you, Finland.
Yeah.
Might be a good time. Can't attack all of us, can you? Well, first of all, yes, you can.
Of course, but
Go ahead.
a little occupied right now.
Go ahead.
If they wanted to move and move quick, I mean, right now would be a pretty good time, wouldn't it?
Go ahead.
Keep saying go ahead, and I
You
keep
keep
trying.
saying that.
I gotta keep trying. I almost went there for
You want to
another
know
one.
you want to know what's sick about this, Mo?
What's that?
What is absolutely sick is the pleasure he gets out of go ahead to you.
There's no pleasure in saying that.
Oh, I look over at you and you're just grinning ear to ear. Any Mo, go ahead.
No, I just want to see how long Mo kind of keeps
How I keep
positioning
trying.
himself.
Yeah,
But that's what's happening. That's what you just did.
yeah, you gotta keep trying.
That's what I'm saying. Shout out Andre. So yes, so they're right next door. Similar neutral status in these places, the Nordic countries. Been the case for a lot throughout history in these places. NATO, however, expanding. You can see, what is that? That's a map before 97. Got your purple representing NATO before 97. And now you have the orange joining in post 1997. Ukraine, obviously, talking about, I mean, that's kind of what started this whole thing.
Right.
And then up above there, we're going to have Finland and Sweden.
Right.
And they're kind of in gray. But that would give NATO quite the coverage, would it not?
Yeah.